All right, I want to break down this Misery movie again, starring Kathy Bates and James Caan, old school Stephen King movie called Misery, a horror fiction novelist that drives in a bad snowstorm, flips his car, wraps his car. She takes him in, but keeps him in. If you've seen the movie. And it's the one line, everybody who's old enough, they remember this line. When the dude is on the he's strapped to the bed and he's like, "Oh no, please don't." She got the hammer and she's talking about there's a process called hobbling so that slaves couldn't escape, they'd break their ankles. And she went at him with that sledgehammer. When she cocked it back, she said, "It's for the best." Man, that stuff, that's one of the things that haunted me a little bit on the low. In childhood. Yeah. Kathy Bates in Misery. Yup. You guy just screaming, "No, please, God, help me, no." She's like, "It's for the best." And she did it to both ankles. And the imagery was crazy. I mean, she basically chopped his feet off. Both of his feet, basically. That was, when you seen the graphic, you seen, it was like, dang, she took them suckers off of the bone. You know, he was footless after that. Had to be. You know, they had to reattach the whole bone. Both of them put his feet back on. So he's in a wheelchair for the duration of the movie. And he's writing these novels and she's his most avid fan, his number one fan. This is the Stan syndrome. And you got the Stan syndrome that goes on in social media too. You do have a lot of Stans who are obsessional fanatics. Just fanatic is already obsessive, but obsessive fanaticism. I'm talking about even on a higher level where folks is put in danger. Folks is getting stalking charges. Folks is getting restraining orders put on. I'm talking about real fanaticism, and that's coming from people who on some level are in misery. They always want to check up on what you're doing, not to encourage you, not to really see, but just to find something to hate on. They really checking to hoping you could make their day by failing in life. Because they full of misery. And misery loves company, but the people that's miserable don't. The people who's miserable don't love company. No, misery itself loves company. But the people that are in misery, the people who are miserable, nah, they don't like company. They'll have like one other homie or one other homegirl with them that'll be just as bitter as them sometimes. Unless they're lucky enough, fortunate enough, blessed enough for the Most High to send them an opposing voice, somebody that's going to keep them in check. The industry know how important this is. That's why they allegedly assign handlers. You know, folks know how important it is to have that Ace Boone Coon. Every David needs a Jonathan, right? Jesus was who Jesus was. But it said John was the disciple that he loved. Out of his whole crew, came down to one man. Moses had his brother Aaron. And after that, they had Joshua. It was still, you know, he was the successor. So it still came down to one man for the job. It still came down to that. So again, you want to make sure that you stay focused. You know, you stay focused on where, I mean, you gotta focus on two things. You gotta focus on where you are and where you're going at the same time. This is how you drive. You're looking at what's around you and you're trying to look up the street. You could do both. You could do both. So in a nutshell, just find your lane. Find your lane and own your lane. Own it 100%. And if you're going to be in an industry with others, in a game with others, in a lane with others, on a job with others, in the studio with others, please signal before changing lanes. Don't just switch it up on your whole team and leave you and your crew in the dark. Signal before you change lanes. You ever seen it on the highway? Somebody just cutting across lanes, no kind of signal. They speeding too. They cutting across multiple lanes. You ever seen that? That's what happens in social media with the superstar effect, though. Superstars that do that, they'll have a crew, but they want to stand out so bad. You know what I mean? These kind of things can happen. And be careful in how you pick a name. You know, anybody who knew better, we knew back in the day that Beyonce was going to be the star out of Destiny's Child. She was one of the only members that wasn't changing out every year. You know, they was losing members and gaining members at one point. Probably didn't realize that because I think around the same time, DMX was going diamond, Eminem was going diamond, a few other people was going diamond. This is back when rappers used to go diamond. You understand? Rappers be selling like 9 and 10 million albums. So some of the inner details got lost in the shuffle, but I did realize that the group's name was not Destiny's Children. The destiny that was assigned, the stardom, that particular destiny that was assigned was only assigned really for Beyonce. The others tried it. The gospel girl fell off the stage, Michelle, and then Kelly Rowland, who I thought had even doper hits and had a higher potential for higher hits. My goodness, Kelly Rowland. But not even she. She was not Destiny's Child either. Beyonce was. She was the only one that was Destiny's Child. Yeah, it was called a group. But the child part is singular. If it was called Destiny's Children, that'd be different. You could write all the parts for all of them. I don't care if they all got solos in every single song. The group was called Destiny's Child, so it was only one child. Superstar effect to do that to you. I'm not blaming nobody for it, because there's folks that don't have to deal with that kind of name magic. And it'll still be beef. You had a whole Wu-Tang Clan. They established themselves as a clan, but you think they wasn't beefing? I saw the show. I saw the argument on the bus. This is what happens, man. The ego. Ego is wild. They used to have an acronym for it back in the day, back in the late 90s, back when people used to think that the world was going to end in 2000 and Jesus was going to come back in 2000. They used to say ego stood for easing God out. That's what the acronym would stand for, easing God out. It was cute. It doesn't make any sense, though. I hear what they're saying. I hear what they're saying. If you're being egotistical and vain, yeah, you're not allowing any room for spirituality. Absolutely, I understand that. If that's all they're saying, that's cool. But you know that it was kind of just being thrown around like a colloquialism, an empty slogan, though. And in that way, you got to kind of redefine it just to make sure that somebody else who's in that doesn't get deceived. You can't ease God out. You can't ease God out. That is not possible. That's not the properties of what God is. You can't ease God out. You can't push God out. You can't put God in. You can't include God. You can't do nothing to God but be thankful. That's all you can really do. You can't stop him. You can't convince him, persuade him. You can't bend or break him. All you can do is thank him. You know, I'm not trying to sound religious, but what else can you do? You can share your thoughts like, this is what I like, but if you understand law of attraction and if you could really break down the gospels properly, you understand that Jesus wasn't telling you to ask God for anything in prayer. He said that's not even how you pray. You got to believe that you received it. This is how you pray. Yeah, that's rough because we wasn't taught that in church business. It was like, yo, God, please, if it be your will, if you want me to have it, Lord, if you don't want me to have it, then I won't have it, Lord. Your will, that thine will be done in my, you know what I mean? All of that. When none of that matters to God. It don't matter to God whether you got a house or not. you be blessed or not, that's all on you. God's job is simple. He gives you what you deserve. That is all. He's there to give you what you deserve. You could thank him for being the provider of all, the creator. Absolutely. But when it comes down to what you deserve, just go ahead and speak a word of faith and manifest that thing. Don't talk to God. Talk to the thing you want and command the thing that you want to be yours. Because you're asking God something that he already gave you the answer to. He been said all the promises are yes in Christ Jesus. What does that mean? The awakened man, the man that's living out of his third eye, the woman that's living out of his third eye. All the promises are already yes in that state. But if you're not in that state, then you still waiting. You don't have a yes or a no. And a lot of people like to play around like that. Well, I'm going to wait until God tells me to do this or God tells me to. God doesn't tell you to do anything. That's not how that goes either. You're trying to put words in God's mouth. No, just say that you felt like doing it. And God allowed you to prosper in your choice. Don't be trying to put him on it. He ain't making these decisions. God doesn't have needs. We put those words in his mouth about him requiring worship and needing people to bow down and serve only him. God don't care about that. God is God. Doesn't have needs. It's beyond needs. You putting needs in God's mouth, all that is a ploy for you to serve man in the name of God. How you like them apples? Just make sure they're not from Eden.